Fantasy Football Show.
Hello everybody and welcome to Planet FPL, the show each and every week that revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Serge.
And my name is James.
And it's the end of Game Week 22. I said it was going to be a lucky game week because my birthday is the 22nd.
Our survey said.
We ended up on a very difficult game week this week. I don't know how or why. It feels a bit strange because I ended up with a score of 47 points this game week. Any normal game week, that'd be all right, middle of the road. I think par for the course. I'd expect a game week rank of sort of 2.5, 3 million, give or take. 5.8 million as a game week rank.
Your template players, bar the defensive ones, essentially didn't return.
Yeah, which would be what? Vardy, Jimenez, Maddison. Are they template?
Yeah. Well, let's not say template as such, but their ownership is all okay, isn't it?
Yeah, plus
Whereas
20%.
There was a high proportion of other players who do have decent ownership who did, your Rashfords, a little bit of Danny Ings, etc. Assist for Salah.
Yeah. So, same old weekend of football. I ended up with, 47 points.
Have you got De Bruyne?
Yes.
Oh, you've got De Bruyne, yeah.
5.8 million game week rank only resulted in 180k overall rank drop to 830,000. So I feel like I dodged a bullet here. I tweeted before yesterday's games that I was expecting a game week rank of 6 million, and it ended up being not far off, but dodged a bullet really with the actual overall rank drop. But the Liverpool defence coming in again, but my Maverick captaincy on Sadio Mane didn't come in. Having said that, the 1.5 million of you who captained Jamie Vardy didn't end up hurting me too much either. Do you know what? I'll take it this week and move on because I think with a game week rank that low and an overall rank drop that small, you've got to take it, which just goes to show how tight the gap and the spread is between points. I think you're 35 points ahead of me. That halves my rank from 830k to 300 and whatever you are.
One Sergio Aguero captain.
Exactly. The man is back.
Well, it was a great return. For those who took the plunge and went on, I saw a few people that wildcarded and went straight and took advantage of that Villa fixture. Well done. I saw a few people saying, thanks, James, for pointing out Villa's left side and Riyad Mahrez return. Yeah, I didn't do it, did I? But, well done to those who did take advantage of it.
I did see a tweet from somebody saying that Riyad Mahrez is now the fourth highest scoring midfielder in the game, give or take.
He's got Mahrez. I saw a stat this morning. He's got over 20 goals and assists each since the beginning of last season in club football.
Wow.
And he's the only one De Bruyne's not got that number in goals. So, if Riyad Mahrez played every week, he'd be in our teams.
But then
we
surely...
just don't know what's going to happen next week.
With the likes of him, because you have the likes of Leroy Sané and Sterling, every City asset fits into that bracket. At the end of the season, or looking at it now, I know Sterling's price as a midfielder, Mahrez is a midfielder. There's 4 points between them. But there's also 4 million, well, almost 4 million between them. Do we just set and forget? Take the rough with the smooth?
You can
block it out?
You can do, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting set of fixtures and results this week.
The problem is generally, unless you get something, I think those who captained Aguero this week did it in a lot more confidence because he didn't play at Old Trafford. My take on it would have been, sugar, neither did Jesus. Like, which way is that going to go? I didn't particularly foresee that he would play both of those two players. Other than De Bruyne, I don't know how much certainty you can have in captaining any City asset unless they've missed the previous game.
Yeah.
Basically, is where you're at with them.
Mahrez has featured in pretty much every game this season, bar a bank of 4 where he didn't play. But other than that, he's been starting or at least coming in off the bench, and he's fairly consistent with his returns. Ultimately, I think he's quite overlooked. When the likes of Grealish and Willian and Richarlison are all getting so much more attention, I think he's overlooked at the price that he is.
I think the other thing is, if we're just doing Man City briefly at the moment, is, and you should never really particularly make Manchester City decisions based on fixtures. But Palace at home is always meh. Sheffield United away, tough. Spurs away, yeah, I realise the state of Spurs at the moment, but it was 1-0 to Liverpool at the weekend, right? City aren't going to come to us and beat us 6-1. West Ham at home, yeah, great. Then Leicester, Arsenal, United, Burnley at home appeals, then Chelsea, Liverpool. They have a tough run. They have an amazing run in, by the way.
Tough, in inverted commas, for a ruthless City like that.
Yeah, generally speaking, for City and Liverpool, don't worry about the fixtures too much, right?
No, you just carry on. I think if they get ahead early, they're such good front runners, and they'll destroy teams. Funny old game week in the end, with quite a few interesting fixtures. That computer system thing, TV screen shit, reared its head again, but we don't talk about that.
Oh.
Interesting game week. And on we go to game week 23. We're only 1 week away from the double game week that we talked about. So anybody that's thinking about triple captaining in the double game week, do listen back to the People's Poll, the show we put out before this, where we break down, is it the best game week to be using your triple captainship? Spoiler. Well,
it probably is.
Yeah,
but we look at alternatives.
There are alternatives. I don't think it's as clear cut. The difficulty being we don't know, right? Do we?
The majority of us are going to do it. That's probably important in closing as well. The majority, like Mane particularly, his effective ownership is going to be off scale.
Through the roof.
But we'll do some numbers on Liverpool when we get into the fixtures. I finished the week on 61 points -4. No goalkeeper. Thank you, Aaron Ramsdale. Although having watched Bournemouth, I'm not too bothered. I don't think that really influenced me. Clean sheets, Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, John Lundstrom, 9 points, Kevin De Bruyne. Vardy assist captain. Danny Ings goal, yellow card. Why I bring him in and no bonus points?
Well,
Marcus Rashford, 12-pointer. I dropped 30k to 393,000 overall.
Yeah, I think it's you know how at the start of the season managers don't look at the table after for 4 or 5 games. That I'm not looking at the table. That's how I still feel about the overall FPL situation at the moment. I think come the end of February, beginning of March is when it will actually take a little bit more shape. But in the last 5 or 6 game weeks, I think there'll be a lot of movement and people can really rise up the ranks as well once a chip strategy comes in. Maybe a couple of maverick captaincy picks coming in as well, which we can talk about for sure. Should we run down some of these games?
Aye, let's.
Where should we start? Friday night, Sheffield United 1, West Ham 0.
What a thriller.
Yeah, I know from a neutral's point of view, it's not necessarily the most exciting or interesting game to watch. If it is one of your teams, I found it a good watch, actually, to be honest with you. Interesting to see how Moyes is trying to imprint his system and stuff on the team. I thought Sheffield United were not good in the first half. They gave the ball away far too much and far too easily. And we played some good stuff. We were defensively pretty stable, but we lack. Do you know what we lack? Is this, teams like Leicester and Liverpool and City and stuff. Like Maddison would always know where Vardy is or what Vardy's going to do. Mane and Salah and Firmino, they have like a chemistry and a kind of underlying telepathic knowledge or system of how they're going to play attacking. We don't have that. I don't think Anderson and Haller and Lanzini really know how to play with each other, whereas the others
Dirty.
do. What do you mean?
Carry on.
Sorry,
that was the child in me. Carry on.
I get it. That was the child in you. If only we had a bleep machine. I think from a defensive point of view, we're getting a lot better and progressively passing build-up plays. Ball retention's much better, but final third we're really lacking. And in the end, when Sheffield United upped that intensity for that half an hour, we made that stopping mistake and we couldn't recover. But I thought we deserved a draw from the game. I really did.
Don't want to talk West Ham too much now.
We got Tottenham on the way.
We got Tottenham tomorrow. Can I ask you an opinion of what formation you think West Ham played on Friday night? Because I've got a very unpopular opinion on it.
I'd probably say 3-5-2.
I think it was 4 at the back. And I'll go into my thoughts on that a little bit more tomorrow. But I think there was...
I haven't looked at heat maps, if I'm honest with you, but...
they'll probably tell you that Masuaku, if you compare Masuaku and Zabaleta played as a fullback and Masuaku played as a left winger. I mean, it never got picked up during the game, in my opinion, from the experts, Mr. Neville and Mr. Carragher, that it wasn't a back three. I felt it was more of a back four, with Anderson allowed to come in off the right-hand side, which meant that there was an emphasis West Ham defensively on stopping Bulldog's flank, which meant Stevens could advance on the left-hand side. And I think they just felt that Zabaleta was never going to get forward to get caught out. It was a brave strategy because obviously if O'Connell overlaps down that side as well, and I guess maybe they looked at it and went, Anderson ain't going to come back and help Zabaleta anyway. Why bother let him drift? I don't know, but we'll talk about that more tomorrow.
But it was pretty effective in the first half. I thought we nullified their threat reasonably well.
Actually, it interested me. It didn't bother me tactically. Like, shape-wise, it was quite unusual, but it didn't bother me. I felt like the goal was to get Anderson into a position behind Sheffield United central midfield that could cause them damage. Yeah, it didn't really, other than obviously he did have that really good chance in the first half, Anderson, if you think about it, running through and beyond. Fabianski.
Oh, well, firstly, I don't think enough is made of how much of an impact losing him after 13 minutes had on the game. I think had he stayed on, we could have definitely got a draw and probably pushed on for more.
Well, I don't think he would have taken that goal kick like that.
No, I don't even know if it was a goal kick. Was it a pass back or goal kick? I can't remember if it was coming back to him.
Ridiculous goals concede, mate.
I think Balbuena takes as much blame as David Martin does for the way he received it. Stupid.
He can't turn, can he?
No,
Balbuena.
No. Well, he couldn't then for sure. So yeah, that's a bit of an issue. I only just bought him in. Disappointing to see him leave again. I don't know what we do now from here. I think for me, if you've got 4.9 million to spend on a defender, then
keeper.
Keeper. Well corrected. I think Dean Henderson was the one that I had my eye on, mainly for a couple of reasons. I think 4.5. Most FPL players want a cheapie, don't they? 4.5 million. A cheapie that plays. A lot of the good uns, Ryans of the world and what have you, have gone up to 4.8, 4.9. Henderson's at now. I don't know if there's any good 4.5 million priced keepers left. The one that's closest to it, that is reasonably popular, would be Nick Pope at 4.6. Is anyone going near Burnley defensively right now?
No chance.
So for me, I think just the sideways move to Henderson is going to be the one. And then, like Lundstrom, everybody owns Lundstrom, right? Sometimes maybe the differential there is doubling up on the Sheffield United defence.
Yeah, a lot have gone down that route with like a Bulldog as well, or Henderson. I certainly saw a few teams well done over the weekend who had treble Sheffield United defensively. I'm not sure how that's going to work away to Arsenal and at home to Man City.
Yeah, treble's a bit much.
But beyond the Man City fixture, they have an amazing run of fixtures, Sheffield really United, good. Where I think you can look at them. Just, I want to come back to keepers, but just a note on John Fleck. 9 points at the weekend from the 1 assist. That's banging. Love that.
Yeah.
I looked at players under 5 million, of which he's 4.9, to see how he ranked against some of the defenders under 5 million. I was surprised to see he comes out points-wise ahead of all of them.
Really?
The only player under 5 million who's got more points than him is Todd Cantwell.
Okay, and Todd's had a good season.
Closing in on that. Is there a case for teams who want to go 4-3-3 to have like Fleck and Cantwell? Spend that little bit more to have two good options off the bench?
Yeah, I don't see why not. At the moment, you and I are both sitting on Traore and Cantwell. And so if I was to downgrade Traore to a Robert Fleck, that gives me an additional 0.7 million that I can spend on a defender. A lot of us are sitting with Rico. Rico now, Bournemouth are looking shot, so you want to move on from him. Kelly, he may not stay in the team if Walker-Peters and all that happens, and he may drop out. So there is a case to be made for beefing up your fourth defender, and at that point, Fleck and Cantwell, perfectly good bench options from your midfield. I really think actually I may look at Fleck. Fleck's in my North team because I just thought he offered great value for money, and in my North team I'm trying to fit in Liverpool players and City players.
He is offering good value. I think but for Lundstrom, we probably would have been looking at this with John Fleck quite a while ago. I think he's worth considering. You're talking about downgrading Traore. I might look at a position where I'm Traore, Fleck and Cantwell. Yeah. Mane, De Bruyne, and then really shoving the funds. I need to get Zaha out somehow. But one of the reasons that's now proving problematic still is my injury to Aaron Ramsdale. So you're saying probably, if you're a Ramsdale or Fabianski owner, we don't know the extent of either's injury yet.
No, that's the first thing. Hold tight.
Hold tight. Ramsdale minor but reported hamstring. I mean, what does that mean? And Eddie Howe was never one to particularly give the game away on injury news.
Nah.
And Fabianski, I think we assume, unfortunately, setback-wise, I don't know about long-term, but he's not going to make the double game week, I shouldn't think. So it's a sell, isn't it?
Yeah.
What would you say to people who say about Martin at 4.1?
There was probably about 5 minutes where I looked at David Martin and thought, you know what, 4.1, he's a consideration. Because actually, I don't think Martin's a bad keeper. I mean, he's not first choice Premier League standard by all means, but as a backup keeper, he's perfectly fine. The mistake's not going to have helped. But, for keepers, I think when they don't play consistently and are not regularly in the team, it's hard to get up to the pace of a game, especially Premier League standard. And he made a really good block in the second half on the one-on-one save and was generally all right. We want to buy Darren Randolph. It's been talked about since the window opened, really, let's be honest. And the only thing holding it back is an injury to Randolph. Should that all sort itself out in the next 24, 48 hours, he'll play. If we buy Darren Randolph, he'll be the first choice keeper. And then do you want to buy David Martin, a second choice keeper? I don't think so.
What if Randolph comes in this week, he's cleared fit to play, and he's priced at 4.5?
Oh, 4.5 for Darren Randolph. It's a tempter. It really is, because look, the keepers in point scoring order, right? Schmeichel's expensive, is different bracket. Then you got Henderson, Foster, 4.9, Ryan, 4.8, Gaeta, 5.1, Dubravka, 5, Patricio, 5.2. They're all north of that 4.8 mark, and we're tight, aren't we, with goalkeepers? Don't want to spend any money. So at 4.5, I'd probably buy Dan Randolph, actually, thinking about it. Would I take Randolph over Henderson? Quite possibly. And it does give you the extra cover in that double game week.
Double game week against Leicester.
Yeah,
and Liverpool.
I mean, it's really not that exciting, but if you're into it, you've got a little bit extra cover. You might get one clean sheet out of the two and a couple more save points. All helps. Just don't captain
the other thing is as well, you want to do it now if you're going to do it. Like if there was some news about Randolph with Everton at home this week, Brighton at home after the double game week. That's the fallback of the double as well. Is there are good home fixtures either side of it.
Yeah. I wouldn't put anyone off Randolph. I wouldn't go to Martin. I just don't think
I don't think I would make that move personally unless I got news that Fabianski season finished.
Yeah.
I think, or at least to sort of up to blank game week 31 at a minimum, I would say. I would, if I come off Ramsdale, I would more likely look at up to Henderson, who, as I said, beyond the Manchester City fixture in game week 24, they have a very good run. Or I come down to Alex McCarthy at Southampton, 4.3 million, due to rise to 4.4 very soon. I like cheapest goalkeeper in the game. He's solidified that place as Southampton's number one now.
Yeah, I mean, at 4.3, if you're looking at Gunn and McCarthy together, just looking at that now, 66 points. They'd be just above Tom Heaton and below Kepa, so probably about.
Well, McCarthy's points
18th
per game is not great, but then you're paying 4.3 for whatever you get.
Yeah,
right?
he is cheap. Yeah, he is cheap. So cheap and cheerful. And if you do pick up anything, Southampton have improved a hell of a lot.
Do you think we'll do them in a bit?
Yeah, hell of a lot. So with their pressing style, if they're playing lower league clubs, you can easily lower half of the table clubs. You can easily see them picking up the odd clean sheet.
Just one question because it's selfish. Zaha to Felipe Anderson.
I've seen a massive improvement in Felipe. What I don't understand is why Moisey doesn't play him right up top with Haller. I think he offers a lot more than Lanzini. If I'm talking about this lack of chemistry. I think Lanzini's the one that is the weak link at the moment. He doesn't offer enough at all. Before the World Cup, before he got that injury and then couldn't go to the World Cup, there was talk that Liverpool were going to put in a bid of 25 or 30 million. He could have gone at that time, to be honest with you. So looking back at it, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I'm not feeling Lanzini, so I'd like to see Moisey play Anderson right up top with Haller, and you'll see a lot more from him. But he's moving in the right direction, worth a punt.
Is there any word on Antonio's injury?
No, I haven't heard anything on his or Fabianski's at the moment. So
it's so frustrating, Antonio.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Moving on.
Moving on, indeed. Anything from Sheffield United other than Fleck? They've got a couple of tough fixtures, but then they've got a very good run.
The only thing I'd add as well is in terms of trying to stretch teams defensively, you might see Mousse come back into the team for the Arsenal and Manchester City fixtures.
Yeah.
If you were considering McBurney, who was he was in the crowd watching his beloved Swansea City against Cardiff yesterday and has been caught making some sort of gesture or something.
Oh, really? I hadn't seen that on the old Twitter.
I don't have a problem with him being in the crowd supporting his boyhood club. I don't know about the obscene gestures though, but what do you expect with a Welsh derby, eh?
Yeah. Crystal Palace 1, Arsenal 1, which was the clash of the correspondents last week when we had Adam on. The first 15-20 minutes, I thought my prediction of Arsenal overrunning them and taking a 3 or 4-0 victory away from here was looking good. I thought they had high energy and played well and looked a threat. And then I'm not sure whether they ran out of steam or Palace just did a better job of managing them and got back into the game a lot more for the end of the first half. And the second half was fairly even in the end. And I think a draw was a fair result.
Just about, maybe.
Probably.
By the end.
Similar to the Sheffield United West Ham game.
One thing to say about Arsenal was, as good as the football they played in the first half, and they did play some good stuff, Palace didn't get in the Arsenal box. Don't have a kick in there until about 25-30 minutes or something.
Couldn't get the
Arsenal
ball.
had one shot in that first half, which was the goal. And that really, even though I watched the game, when I was looking back through statistics, I was like, really? They had one shot in that first half? It doesn't seem right. And then I thought about it and I couldn't think of anything else.
Do you know what's interesting? You say that. The game when they beat us at the London Stadium 3-1, they didn't have a touch in our box in the first 30 minutes. I remember just thinking that how easy they were to kind of manage. I mean, different team, different manager, but they didn't even have a touch in the box in the first half. I don't know what that says about the strikers getting into the area, maybe.
No, I don't think there's too much in that. I would say Aubameyang suspended for 2 league games now.
Oh, don't tell me about that red card. Fuck, Sky Fantasy Football ruining me. Me.
You will tweet shit out before a game's
finished. Look, I'll still take my 8 points and run, mate.
Yeah,
but,
right. Brilliant, yeah.
It was a disappointment. Red, in your opinion?
I just put him in for the South team, didn't I? Yes, I think red was the correct decision because of the difference between the Aubameyang and the Robertson one, which other people have been trying to compare.
Yeah.
Was that Robertson did play the ball, you could say excessive force of follow through, whereas Aubameyang, I don't think he meant it at all, but was nowhere near the ball. And I think once VAR is going to look at that and see the way Max Meyer's ankle moved, they're going to say, endangering an opponent and that. It was nowhere near the ball, although I don't think it was overly forceful and I don't think he meant it. It was probably the right decision. What I think changed the game for Arsenal was 2 things. One, Palace decided in the second half they were actually going to play 10 yards further up the pitch and put some pressure on. Does help, get in Arsenal's faces and try and challenge them. But I think also the absence of Lucas Torreira went off at half-time was a massive, massive blow to the way Arsenal have started under Mikel Arteta.
Yeah.
Guendouzi does not have the same traits as Torreira, and it also therefore has a negative impact on Xhaka, who's been doing okay with this Torreira partnership. I'd really keep an eye on that Torreira injury news because that's a worry for Arsenal if he's going to be out for a while because he's beginning to show the form that we thought we'd saw towards the start of last season. So, different challenge again for Arsenal next week with Sheffield United coming. United will give Arsenal some problems. Depends what Arsenal show. But if Arsenal show the intensity they've shown in the home games against Chelsea and United, they'll have too much for Sheffield United.
Yeah.
Will they?
Well, it's going to be tricky. I'm still not quite ready to jump in on any Arsenal assets, and the problem is that the ones that you may want, like Aubameyang, is expensive. So you need to think about the structure of your team. I
would think in the next 2 games that Martinelli would get the shot off that left hand side. Sheffield United home, Chelsea away. I don't think that's an in-and-out gamble. Aubameyang would be more of interest to me once he's back, walks into Burnley away, Newcastle at home, Everton at home, and he'll have a decreased ownership, but certainly
they've got a prolonged, decent run. I think if you buy Aubameyang once he's back from his suspension, you're unlikely to want to sell him till maybe even the end of the season.
It does change at the same time. Jamie Vardy walks into 3 difficult fixtures as well. So,
just saying.
possible. The problem is with Vardy, if you're like me and you bought at 9-0 or 9-1, whatever I bought at, it's so difficult to sell, knowing you might want to go back.
Yeah, if you're selling, probably aren't going back with Jamie Vardy. That's the thing to bear in mind.
Trying to advise someone who bought John Lundstram at 4 million to sell. It's ridiculous. There's
not
no
gonna
point.
happen.
You're never selling him.
Nah. Chelsea 3, Burnley 0. Chelsea back to their winning ways. Nice to see a home win for them, or nice from an FPL point of view. But a real spread of assists and goals here. 6 different players picking up attacking returns, and some familiar names in there. Jorginho obviously on pens. He doesn't miss many, does he? I think he's only ever missed one in open play, being in the match as opposed to a penalty shootout, and he scored the rebound.
So, is that right?
Yeah, exactly that. Abraham.
It's a very strange style. I don't know how keepers get kidded by it all the time. Just got to stand there and don't even flinch.
Yeah.
And just take it like a normal shot. It's difficult, I accept that.
But Willian picking up another assist. He's been ticking along so under the radar for a while, as Willian now, with his attacking returns. I know you've mentioned there's one that picked up the goal that's completely under the radar, but understandably because he hasn't played much.
Hudson-Odoi at 5.3.
Cheap. If I didn't even look at his price and then thinking, I've gone with Traore at 5.6. Hudson-Odoi at 5.3. If he was playing week in, week out,
you'd get. I mean,
in spite of the fact
that was his first goal of the season. He had a spell where it was Southampton away, Newcastle at home around game weeks 8, 9, I think, where he had consecutive assists. And
3 in a row.
There was a real move to him. He went back up to 6 million. And since then, not a lot. Obviously curtailed a little bit by injuries, minutes, etc. It seems to be doubts around against Pulisic's favouritism again. And if Hudson-Odoi is going to get a run, I'm at 5.3. Yeah, it'd have to come into consideration for you. The problem is he just feels like a transfer out as quickly as it's a transfer in. I think that's part of the issue.
Yeah, I mean, Hudson-Odoi, I think, is one of those players that once he gets in the team, I actually think he'll stay in the team. He's an exciting player. And so he'll always look like he's creating opportunities and chances and what have you. And fans like that. So I think if he gets in, he's going to stay in now, which we'll soon find out. Both of us are sitting on 0 Chelsea players. And we've had a bit of Abraham and a bit of Mount this season so far. Are you tempted to go back?
Not at the moment, personally.
Because they do offer reasonable value. They're not expensive players.
Mason Mount's been a while, wasn't it, since there's been real sort of goal returns. Is it maybe since game week 8 he hasn't scored?
Yeah, it's been a real while.
Is that right?
I'll check for you.
And Abraham's absolutely fine at his value. If you've got these guys, I still think it's okay.
It's probably just the fixtures now, right?
Well, no, Newcastle away, Arsenal at home. The fixtures
Leicester away, fine. United at home, Tottenham at home.
Well, I've mentioned that run of 4 fixtures that starts with the Arsenal game. If Chelsea perform well in those 4 fixtures, particularly if they were to beat Man United as well in that run, then the top 4 is finished.
Signed, sealed, delivered. Yeah,
they can only trip themselves up here, I think, Chelsea.
Yeah,
because quality-wise, they're ahead of United and any other potential challengers.
But how much did Burnley just roll over? Because that's 4 defeats on the bounce now for Burnley, and that's relegation form.
They had some shots this time.
Yeah,
true. Did have a goal disallowed at 0-0.
Yeah, VAR. But I don't know if Burnley have a saving grace here, or maybe 3 saving graces in Norwich, Aston Villa and Bournemouth, who are all performing just as badly as they are, and they might get away with one here. But I feel like with Burnley, they're more likely to turn it around than the likes of Villa and Norwich. Bournemouth have a bit more experience.
You keep saying that, though.
What, with Burnley? Yeah, I mean, I suppose I'm going off the experience of last season. Like they started with the Europa League and didn't cope well with this Thursday, Sunday football. So the first, up until Christmas, they were bad. But then Dyche got them rallied round, right? I think he's the type of manager, sit them down in a room and say, boys, right, we're in this, let's sort this out. And they did turn it around. The second half of the season was great for Burnley last year.
Who've they got this coming weekend, Burnley?
Burnley's next fixture is Leicester at home, followed by Manchester United away, followed by Arsenal at home, followed by Southampton away. So 4 tough fixtures. Southampton, in the form that they're in, you'd consider tough. And then it's Bournemouth at home. By then, if they've only picked up 1 or 2 points in the next 4...
Well, by then, as unlikely as it looks, Bournemouth might be above them. That's a different conversation.
Yeah. It definitely makes that game week 27 a real 6-pointer. real 6-pointer. No, there's nothing to see from Burnley.
I can't see Burnley picking much up in these next couple of games, in which case they'll be closer to it.
Yeah.
I think they're struggling for goals at the moment. I think the team feels a little bit stale, other than by what I've heard. Dwight McNeil was the only Burnley player to come out of the weekend with any real credit. Listen to what Turfy Topper, our Burnley correspondent, was saying about like Goodmanson back out again. Mm-hmm. As soon as he's back, he's out again. You're getting frustrated because really he's the potential X factor in that squad. But you can't. How much time do you give it? Like he's just constantly in and out, and there's more outs than ins. I think Burnley need to. I don't know if they will though. Like buy now, like something to refresh that squad.
Look, what happened when they went down previously is they just kept it tight and came back. And I think they're structured around, if we go down, don't worry about it. Hold our nerve and we'll come back up again.
Yeah,
I think it's too early to write Burnley off just yet.
That championship and after difficult to get out of it. It's like ask a Leeds fan and that.
More and more
around
difficult.
Forever.
Year in, year out. It really is getting trickier. Everton 1, Brighton 0. The Carlo Ancelotti revolution continues. Viva Italia.
Is it all good at Goodison again this week after all the reports of fans going down to the training ground last week? And
yeah. I
Fabian
don't know.
Delph's Instagram row. Have you seen that?
No.
That's worth searching for. Fabian Delph.
Okay. On Twitter?
No, Instagram, I think, started rowing with people.
Their league...
said some really silly things.
Since they lost to Liverpool, their league run hasn't been too bad, and they've had some tough fixtures in there. Chelsea, Manchester United, Arsenal, City. There's only City that they got beat. Other than that, they've been picking up victories and draws in and amongst it. And another victory again now. I don't think their form's been bad. They're kind of steadily ticking along.
Yeah, I mean...
Look, I'd take their results, put it that way, from the position we're in.
Of course you would.
So I think you would right now. Look, a victory against Chelsea, drawing at United and Arsenal, beating Burnley and Newcastle and Brighton. You take all of those results.
I think the one that would interest me if I was going to invest in Everton is Mason Holgate at 4.4.
Yes.
More so than Sidibe. For me, I'd rather go past Sidibe towards sort of Matt Doherty's valuation if I wanted an attacking fullback, is how I feel.
Yeah. Holgate's at 4.4, and he picked up BPS at the weekend as well.
Yes.
Decent.
Yes, over Sidibe, so that's switched back. Holgate's played every minute since game week 10, I believe.
Correct, yeah.
Michael King came in at the weekend and apparently played quite well in place of Yerry Mina, who was a sub. So is Holgate literally now first choice centre-back? Is that a complete lock?
Is he playing well enough to be? I think with Mina, Mina just wants to fight.
Counts, yeah. I've always felt he had the potential, Holgate, but then like he went to West Brom on loan and he underwhelmed. He's had periods where he's played at right back and he's never looked like he was going to show anything in that position. I think he's a player that's full of promise and needs a run of fixtures. Now he's getting them. I think he's decent. He offers a good alternative at the moment to, say, Kelly, Rico. If you're worried about your backup in that area, there are a couple of fixtures coming up where you can play him, and there are others where you wouldn't. Yeah,
I don't disagree with you at all on that. I think Richarlison now at 8.1. Has returned in the last 2 with goals after I sold him.
Due a blank, but playing West Ham next week.
I'm not buying him back in. I'm not considering just because he scored after I've sold him.
Right, okay.
Irritating. He's on my shit list at the moment.
Your shit list.
Yeah. Another that's there but not there is Mopé. He hasn't returned in the last couple. He's looked like he could have in a couple of games, but I think with Brighton, the thing is now, whilst they haven't been performing well in the last couple, haven't really returned in the last couple, who's selling them before Aston Villa at home and Bournemouth away, followed by West Ham away and then Watford at home? Like if you own a Brighton asset, don't want to get the 2 South Coast clubs mixed up. You're not selling them, surely.
No, and some will be buying. Because after yesterday, Aston Villa looked like the target, didn't they?
I had a couple of people tweet me pictures of Mopé's shirt saying, "Are you tempted to captain him this week against Villa at home?" I'm not, but I can see where they're coming from with Villa's defence the way it is.
Don't fancy getting bitten twice, no?
No. He got me an assist last time round. Yeah, no.
I think there's a few that you can look at Brighton from certain budget points, I think. Like, were I to go Maupay or Calvert-Lewin in that area now, if I was to going to downgrade from Rashford, for example, then yeah, I would go Morpay now, just because of the next two. Villa at home, Bournemouth away.
Morpay over Ings?
No.
Okay.
No, just forget Danny Ings, man.
We'll talk about Danny Ings when we get to Leicester. But
no, it's a decent run for Brighton, especially obviously the next two, and then it's West Ham, Watford, Sheffield United, Palace, Wolves, Arsenal up to the blank. It's an okay run of fixtures.
Yeah.
You could hold longer. Bernardo playing left wing back. He did play 3-4-3 at the weekend. Can play obviously at left back as well. 4.3 defenders, worth a look. Possibly again another one, Kelly Rico alternative. I looked at Trossard's numbers, because I'm looking at midfielders personally in that area at the moment. 5.8, 0.3% ownership. I looked at his points per start and I was underwhelmed. I expected his numbers to look a lot better than what they actually physically do. He started the last three with 90 minutes in all of them. So there's a sustained period now. I think he could offer a great differential over the next coming game weeks. However, there are guys who I think we're going to talk about, like Watford, for example, would just show up a lot better at the moment.
I think Trossard might end the season as someone that we all like the look of, plays really good football, very creative, but not an FPL asset. Yeah, I think he might end up in that bracket this season, but maybe one to watch for next season.
I think he would be... what I'd recommend with Trossard is like go and look at his numbers before you buy, but I think he could offer a brilliant differential. We know certainly the capability of him is there. I like Bernardo as a cheap
he'll upset
alternative.
you though as well. We'll Trossard in with the blanks.
Possibly. Morpay is a definite hold. It's okay to buy this week. On an overview, I don't know the status of Aaron Moy, but I know certainly FPL Seagull at the weekend was like, yeah, really missed him badly. And they underwhelmed a bit here. Everton just about shaded it and deserved it, I think.
Leicester 1, Southampton 2, and the scoreline doesn't lie. I think a lot of people with the armband on Vardy, 1.5 million players. So if you consider all the live players, that's a mental ownership on Jamie Vardy. I wasn't feeling it because I'd seen this revival from Southampton in this high pressing, high intensity game, and that's how it played out in the end. I think Leicester just looked a bit tired and jaded.
Yeah, changed system, went back to the back four. I think it's clear at the moment that they're missing Wilfred and Ndidi.
Yeah.
He's seriously underrated massively. I spoke about a month ago and said, look, Barca and Madrid, if he continues, will come and look for him at PSG. He's good enough potentially to go and play for those clubs in a holding midfield role.
Kante Mark II.
Different players. Doesn't get around the pitch in quite the same way as N'Golo Kante. He's a brilliant protector and a good footballer. Yeah. Very underrated on the ball as well. They're missing him. Tielemans was rested. I think back to the Villa game, the 4-1 victory in the league in early December, and sort of said he looks a bit tired, Tielemans. Got another break here. That's probably another one they've missed a little bit because then the weight on Maddison's perhaps a little bit too much, but obviously Dennis Pratt did score in the game.
Yeah.
But Leicester were well beat here by a very improving side. Leicester had 5 shots on goal in the game. Danny Ings had 8.
Wow. Okay, so Danny Ings outshot him.
Highest XG in the league at the weekend. I think 6 or 7 of Ings' shots were in the box as well.
These are not Danny Ings stats, are they? He's generally a stat buster, or he's
1 or 2 shots and goal. Yeah, absolutely.
He's outperforming his XG. He's been steadily rising in price for a number of game weeks now. I've missed the boat with him. He's 6.7 million. I think he may even have gone up to 6.8 now. He has. Get it done?
In my opinion, yes.
Would you go from Jimenez down to Danny Ings? Would you go from Mopay up?
I think that's one that a lot of people are debating. It doesn't help the Southampton and Wolves play each other next game week. No. Makes it a little bit more, I don't know.
Wolves do have some tougher fixtures coming up, but they generally do well in these tougher fixtures as well. So
I don't know. Is this a fixture that Wolves do well in?
Well, Liverpool, they've got coming up.
I'd say Wolves... You could see that as 2 draws. Southampton away and Liverpool home. They could conceivably lose at Southampton and beat Liverpool, or vice versa. I'm not sure these are the sort of fixtures that Wolves do well in, actually, because...
Not the Southampton one, I mean the Liverpool one more.
Oh, Liverpool, yeah. I think I said this morning on the People's Poll, I think like Wolves conceivably could beat Liverpool next week.
Yeah.
I think Southampton stylistically, in terms of the way they want to come at you and are happy to press without the ball, is possibly a little bit more of an issue to Wolves. Having said that, Wolves have struggled quite a bit with sides who are happy to sit back in, say, the way Newcastle were to soak up pressure in the second half at the weekend. I looked at Southampton's numbers since the reverse fixture, the famous 9-0, which covers the last 11 game weeks. And this includes 2 fixtures that Southampton had straight after the Leicester game, which were both defeats. 2-1 defeats at Man City and at home to Everton. Just to see if I could find anything from a stylistic point of view, any really unusual numbers. The only thing that really stood out was over the last 11 game weeks, they've tackled more than any other team.
Right, okay, so they've upped the intensity.
Work rate's gone up, but then Spurs are second for that number. And it don't feel like my team are putting the intensity in, maybe because we're defending a lot.
Maybe you're having to tackle a little bit more potentially.
Possibly.
Yeah.
But that was the only thing. I couldn't find anything offensively that made them stand out, like in terms of what are they, second in the form table since the beginning of December.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing number-wise that puts them that high. There's some good numbers, put some sort of top half for teams.
The only team I'm assuming a better form is Liverpool.
Yeah, who play in a different league completely. Whoa. Over those 11 game weeks, Danny Ings has more FPL points than any other FPL player.
Since game week 10?
Yeah, so game weeks, is it 11 to 22 or 12
11,
to 22?
11 game weeks.
It's 11 game weeks since that Leicester fixture. Isn't it? Actually, no, it's 12 game weeks. Sorry, it's a lie. So it's from 11 to 22, 12 game weeks.
At 6.8 million to be the highest scoring player in the game.
Over, essentially, a third of the season.
Yeah.
It's not a short period that we're talking about.
It is very tempting that to kind of look at him. I think it maybe Jimenez will give way because I can't sell Mopé to bring in Danny Ings this week. Assuming I solve my goalkeeper problem by Fabianski coming back and saying he is fit.
On Southampton, do you know, Suj, who the next highest FPL point scorer is over the same 12 game weeks?
I would say, because of my love for him, and also he has put a few free kicks away, JWP.
It is JWP.
Yeah, baby. JWP is actually all right.
45 points in comparison to Danny Ings' 80, and is obviously only 0.9 cheaper than Danny Ings.
4 points a game, give or take.
Yeah,
it's all right.
It's okay at that value, but it's not
okay.
It's not what Mr. Ings is doing.
No, not even
and
close.
I think if you wanted to, if you're looking to move on to a second Southampton asset, or you're not on any and want to go in, I think there's a real temptation to look at them defensively here. Just because of the value in Stevens at 4.3, and obviously, as I'd mentioned previously, Alex McCarthy at 4.3.
I didn't actually realise how good their fixtures are for a prolonged period until kind of game week 31.
That's the problem as well. So it's not like he's had a great run. Danny Ings has had a great run of 12 fixtures, and now he's walking into rubbish. You open up the page and look at the fixture and you go, oh my gosh.
Yes. It's
There's
looking very good. Yeah, very good. All the way up to even 32. Like you'd probably hold until the end of the season if you're getting him in now, really.
I think his ownership is going to continue to shoot. With still, what's Danny Ings' ownership?
It's about 23.6% at the time of recording.
How quickly you think back to how that ownership shot up for Jamie Vardy?
Yeah.
If Danny Ings with Aubameyang suspended, unless someone else goes mental at the weekend, if Danny Ings scores at the weekend, by this time next week, Danny Ings will be in the FPL team of the season. You know, when you show up your dream team, the best 11 players, he'll be in it.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
It's at that point where you get the extra star, people go, oh, this is a nonsense now. Look at his value.
Got to get him in. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was an unusual one for me to take the punt last week because, you know me, I'm not one to back a player in that sort of fixture. But I felt that I had to push through the value. I made the move on New Year's Day, up the 0.2, knowing there was good fixtures afterwards to come. And as well as I said, Southampton might lose the odd fixture 2-1. He'll probably get the goal.
Yeah.
And he could have had any number of goals in this fixture at the weekend. The other thing I noticed just in Southampton, I have mentioned it a few times, with like Benderek, Stevens, Højbjerg, Ward-Prowse in terms of those midfield partnerships, is I was surprised looking at it since the 9-0 game, how much structure they've got to their team in terms of, like, they're not making too many changes. So I was surprised.
They found the formula that works.
I was surprised to see that, like, Armstrong had started 9 of the 12 games. And other than that, 9 have started 11 of the last 12. Other than Bertrand's 10, because obviously Bertrand missed the food suspension after the 9-0 the first time. Essentially, they've got a solid set of 9 plus Armstrong, and the only one he changes is whoever plays with Danny Ings. Danny Ings doesn't seem bothered by who plays with him, he'll score anyway. And the 2 wide players at the moment, Armstrong doesn't really want to play on the right, and Redmond's happy to come inside off the left. So they kind of overpower teams in that area, and it does allow fullbacks to push on as well. So it means like you've got your likes of Ward-Prowse, Redmond, Armstrong now picking up second balls if Ings is beaten in the air as well. They've had a really, really good run of fixture. I think since that defeat to Everton, which was 2 after Leicester, the 9-0, where it looked absolutely bleak from them. I think they've only lost to yourselves and Newcastle, and they've had an unbelievable run.
Talking of someone who's going to be in the dream team at the end of the year, Marcus Rashford. Second highest point scoring striker now. Ticking along so consistently. A very comfortable routine home 4-0 win for Manchester United against Norwich.
One of the things I looked at, and I was looking at looking at Southampton, and obviously Ings' numbers over the last 12 game weeks is over that period. Highest XG? Marcus Rashford.
Okay, fair play.
Now, I've been considering, mainly because I wanted to pump Heung-min Son into my team, finish that sentence correctly, was moving off Rashford to sort of a Calvert-Lewin, Morpay area, whatever, so I could go from Zaha to Son. Seemed like a great move. But then looking at Rashford's numbers and comparing it to Son is very similar value. Obviously, Rashford is cheaper. Rashford kills him on the numbers, statistically, everything.
Yep.
So I think he stays in spite of that Liverpool fixture. Because okay, right, take this week as what it is, and he walks into Burnley at home next week. So as long as he's fit, there is a yellow flag, but we don't think there's anything in that.
Serious, no. Probably just resting him.
Cup replay with Wolves on Wednesday, so we'll get information. I mean, I wouldn't be bothered if he missed this weekend if he was back for Burnley anyway, to be honest. So, yeah, I think on reflection now, it's now a hold. There is some bias in that. Like, if he hadn't scored against Norwich, I think I'd probably be forcing that move through. But you do think, his capability, particularly in fixtures at Old Trafford as well.
He's just been so consistent throughout the season as Marcus Rashford.
To counter the argument, obviously, his XG is very high because they do get a high number of penalties as well.
But he puts them away.
In terms of his shots,
don't forget, you still get FPL points for penalties, so he's still putting them away, and he's still picking up the points. Maximum bonus points again this weekend. I'll be interested to see how many BPS he has picked up. 26 for the season so far. I think that's only one less than Danny Ings has picked up for the season at 27.
I was just looking back, so over those last 12 game weeks of some of the higher scoring FPL players, there's only one person who's had more shots than Marcus Rashford in that period. Do you know who it is? So it's going to break you, mate. No, it's Jimenez. Jimenez had 50 shots in the last 12 game weeks. Only 18 on target. That's a good stat.
Yeah, that's not a good stat from a Jimenez point of view.
Yes, I think Rashford stays for me. I think people on Anthony Martial and a similar boat. I don't feel like I ever want to be in a position to trust United where I have both, I don't think.
Nah.
Although Martial's numbers are really good for his value at 7-9 as well. The other one I'm looking at United, and I wouldn't force it through this week. I'd be happy certainly to let this price go, is Brandon Williams at 4.0, who obviously won the penalty. I feel like he's at a tipping point where the United faithful are like, do you know what?
Just play him now. Yeah.
And I think it's one that would really maybe tempt me, particularly if he doesn't play at Anfield on Sunday. To go, okay, he's going to walk into that Burnley home fixture. Right, for buying at 4.1, do I really want to play Lundstrom against Man City?
Maybe not.
Maybe one to look at. I'm
especially for those wild carding as well.
I've got other issues. I would say if you've got no issue, then look at it. But I don't really know. We believe Ashley Young might have been offered a new 1-year contract to stave off interest from Inter Milan. Is really weird.
But he rejected it, didn't he?
Luke Shaw was absolutely awful the game I watched at Arsenal. So Williams is putting the pressure on. I don't know how well it will last. I'll speak to Gary as my captain about that on Thursday's pod. Oh,
good plug. Clash of the Correspondents this week. We have Liverpool and Manchester United. Dan and Gary coming on, so that'll be a really good Clash of the Correspondents. Let's just mention it while we can. Wolves 1, Newcastle 1.
I said it last pod, and you were like, "What? Typical Wolves."
Yeah, you're right.
You're going to go with it this
Disappointing that they didn't pick it up.
You think when they conceded the early goal, it's a bit of a blow. Almiron took it really well. You think they equalise only 15 minutes in, it will come. And it didn't really. It didn't. Newcastle had 2 early injuries in the game again. I don't think you'd be looking at Newcastle assets. I've got my eye on Matt Doherty, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Doherty is... everyone's got fond memories of owning him last season.
His ownership is still stupidly low.
Because he's stupidly expensive. That's the only
what's
thing,
interesting
right?
as a counter-argument to Matt Doherty is... I spoke about Sidibe and Holgate earlier, and you look at this one and you go, Roman Saiss is a player that we very rarely talk about. 4.4 million. And he's a bit of a threat from set pieces, and that as well does occasionally cover in midfield positions. The one thing that really puts me off Saiss as opposed to Holgate, if you want to compare those two, is Willy Bolly is close.
Yeah.
He's close. And although I think Saiss would probably stay in the back three now, obviously Saiss has been playing left-hand side of Cody and Dendoncker to the right. That left-hand side is generally where Bolly's been playing. Even when Saiss has played in the back three with Cody and Bolly, Saiss has often, as a left footer, played as the right-hand side of the three, which is quite unusual. I don't know if it would mean Dendoncker moving upfield. Does it mean with Jota's injury that they changed the system? I think Neto is another one at 5 million in midfield. He's really worth keeping an eye on because, as I said, I suspected... And I mentioned last week, didn't I, if Jota has a problem, that keep an eye on Neto. I don't know the extent of Diogo Jota's injury. But if Jota's out for a while, like Neto is really worth looking at because I don't think they'll change the system while Traore's fit because they want Traore as the wide of a front three, in my opinion.
Well, you had the dilemma of Traore versus Moutinho. Moutinho, over the course of the season, has 7 assists and a goal.
Moutinho, yeah.
He does, doesn't he? At 5.4 million as well. He's another one in that cheap bracket that will keep ticking along and keep ticking along.
Moutinho's returns will have randomness because a lot of them will come from, as the goal at the weekend, corner taking, wide free kick positioning, for example.
Let's talk about the Spurs 0 Liverpool 1 game. Give us your rundown. I mean, I just thought that Liverpool, like a boxer, just kept you at arm's length, jabbed away. They just were a class team. The only criticism you could say is, look, at 1-0, there's always a chance that you can get back in, and they didn't go on and put it to bed with a 2-0 or a 3-0. But they did keep you at arm's length. Their intensity of pressing and closing down, when you got the ball, the pace with which they got it back was a joy to behold.
Yeah, look, they're an outstanding side. My mood was somewhat better than it was after previous defeats because I didn't expect anything this weekend and I didn't get it. I mean, when Firmino had the shot cleared off the line and Chamberlain hits the post straight afterwards, quite early in the game, you think, this could be a massacre.
Yeah,
and we did have a go. We did have a go in the last 20 minutes. No question, Liverpool deserved to win the game. I think 1-0 was actually about right in terms of reflection.
I remember looking at the stats 15 minutes in and it was like 85% possession. They just couldn't... I think we
had 27% in the first half and I don't know when that was.
And that's the home side. that's just un-Spurs-like and un-home side.
I'll talk about what Mourinho tried to... I don't have a problem with him trying things. He had a tactical plan for this game, whether I agree or don't agree. I can say, okay, right, he tried something here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll pull the bones out of what he tried tomorrow. I think the interesting one people will be asking about is I guess there's 3 players. Son, obviously, because of that differential and timing-wise, having now come out of that Liverpool fixture and returned to from suspension.
Yeah.
Watford away, which now looks really difficult. Norwich at home is the one where I think people are going, I want Son in for Norwich at home. And I find that completely understandable.
Yeah, for sure.
However, bear in mind in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games since Mourinho took charge, it's only the 2 goals scored. There are 4 assists. So look, 6 returns in those games. There's nothing particularly to sniff out. But for me, it's a case of I'm probably comparing against Rashford now and going, I need to keep Rashford, For others, I think the only way you'd be getting him in is if you're going double Liverpool defensive. You certainly ain't getting to a position where you got Salah, Mane, De Bruyne and Son.
No.
Unless you kill all the rest of your team.
Yeah.
So I think most people are going to miss this. Unless there's something like Rashford's out injured for a while or Kevin De Bruyne. You look at, say, Mahrez now, perhaps at a cheaper alternative. And importantly, I think there was a large assumption that Son would play through the middle and he didn't. Lucas Moura did. Now, it was something just for Liverpool. But I suspect that Moura, physically, for a little lad, he's good in the air. He don't mind a physical battle. Son's not interested in any of that, mate.
No.
And I think from Mourinho stylistically, it does mean that if there isn't a forward incoming, which is another thing potentially to put you off Son, although I never believe Spurs will spend money, that Lucas could stay through the middle. Now, does that make Lucas of interest?
No.
It might at the value, though.
Yeah, not for me. I'm not backing in any Spurs assets at the moment, if I'm honest with you. I think Watford are going to beat you next week.
I think I agree with you, unfortunately. But I think the Norwich one, it could be of interest. And then, all right, it's Man City, but then after City, it's Villa away.
Yeah, I don't have time to be wasting transfers on this jumping on, jumping off stuff at the moment. And if you're wildcarding and you've got a plan, by all means, go for it, but it doesn't do it for me.
Just briefly on Japhet Tanganga, who's a player that I've followed for a number of years. Spurs fans might know another young lad, TJ Ayoma, had spent time on the bench at points in the last couple of years. When I first saw the two of them together, it was always Tanganga that was the standout. He played well as a left-sided centre-half in pre-season. Also played that position in the Carabao Cup fixture at Colchester back in September. And when I saw the team, I assumed he would be left-sided centre-half, be it in a 4 or more likely a back 5 as it looked. I'd never seen him play full-back before. I think he acquitted himself very well. Will he continue in that side at 4.0, which is why people want to know? I have no idea. No idea. I suspect the answer to that would be no.
I agree with you on that. Bournemouth 0, Watford 3. Could have probably written this based on the Bournemouth performance that I saw at our place to then go and concede 3 again at home to Watford. They are in real trouble. And the trouble stems from defensively, their two centre-backs just look lacking pace, can't keep up with play. If you get in behind them, they're struggling. And you'd think that Ake was going to come in and solve that, but he played him at fullback, right?
I didn't understand that at all.
I mean, it was very clear in our game that centre of defence is where their difficulties are. And it's interesting that they've not scored at Watford, not scored at home against Watford or at our place. Yet I don't think their problems are attacking. I think they're at the back. They need to solidify and stop leaking goals. Because I think the attacking stuff will take care of itself. They can score goals. They're not bad going forward. They pass the ball well. But defensively, they are really struggling at the moment.
They look shot in a bad way, and Eddie Howe didn't look great during the game yesterday. I felt it was a lot of come on, like trying to G up. I mean, he's shown over his years in the Premier League to be quite astute tactically in terms of quite often flipped between 4s and 3s depending on opposition. I feel like they've completely got away from what they're good at in terms of offensively. They've always conceded goals. Listen to Souness on Sky yesterday going, you concede that amount of goals, you're going to be always in trouble. But it's always the goals that they've scored at the other end has always got them out of shit.
It. Yeah.
They've always been one of the poorest sides defensively.
Average.
To have Ake come back and not play him at centre-half, I really didn't get it.
No.
I mean, admittedly, once he went back into that position later in the game when they switched Adam Smith to left-back and Francis right-back, A, it was too late, and B, it actually didn't help by the end of the game, actually. Yeah, they're in trouble, Bournemouth. From an FPL perspective, don't look at their assets. They do have a few more good fixtures. But are they now? Norwich away this week. Brighton at home. Villa at home.
We're going to learn a lot. If they don't get at least 6 points out of those 3 fixtures, you're going to be thinking relegation now, really.
I think they probably just want to get to a stage, actually, where, like, honestly, because there are teams around them as well, even if they won 1 and drew 2 or something, or, like you said, 1-2, would be fine. I think in terms of what they've got coming after that run, they need to be targeting 3 wins. They're well in trouble. I can't see goals in them at the moment.
No.
It's a little bit like what you said after the West Ham fixture. I I mean, any side who loses, with respect, Suj, 4-0 to West Ham and 3-0 to Watford, like a lot of people are going to lose their job just on those two games.
Done. I'm really fearful for Bournemouth, and I like the club, so I don't want to see them go down. Watford, on the other hand, this is a revival and a half.
Thoroughly enjoyed watching them. Like, genuinely, as the most I could remember enjoying watching them. Well, other than that second half against Arsenal very early in the season.
You'll enjoy the 12:30 game next week, mate. Because Deeney's going to be up for it. He is.
I tell you what, with our spine at the moment and how physical they are,
yeah,
I don't fancy it at all. I saw a player in that game yesterday. It would be mad. Spurs fans will laugh at this. But I tell you, if Etienne Capoue could carry on playing like that, that's the player I saw when we bought him.
Yeah,
he was tremendous. Chalobah alongside him played really well.
Doucouré
at that 10 position, it just works offensively.
Sarr was good. He's got
the pace in the wide areas with Delafay. It's not rocket science, is it?
No.
It's the same bloody squad, although admittedly Deeney back fit, I think, has
massive
helped because
impact.
He draws in the aggressive, the physical nature that allows the pace to go beyond and afterwards. And defensively, they're just not kicking about with it, mate.
No.
Like, if it's got to go out, it will go out. So I looked at some of Watford's FPL assets since Pearson took over. So that's over 6 game weeks now. This includes the fixture where they lost at Liverpool, where they quite impressed us and we all thought they were quite unlucky. You know who the highest scorer of FPL points is in those 6 game weeks, Suj?
From Watford.
From Watford.
I'm going to go. Foster?
Nah.
Okay.
It was what you was going to say.
Sarr.
Yes. It is Ismail Sarr.
I bought him in my Sky Fantasy Football team.
34 points, 6.2 million. He's had 14 shots over those 6 game weeks with an XG of 1.76 and an XA of 1.38. His goal involvement during those 6 games is 45%, which is decent.
I think he looked like a real player.
And I think he's the one that everyone is looking at. I think there might be an alternative, and I actually think it might be Doucouré, who was very much an FPL favourite a couple of years ago when he had that a mad start to a season. Him and Capoue both had mad starts.
But he was a lot cheaper then as well.
Yes, but 5.6 at some of these numbers are not so bad when actually you compare the two players. So Doucouré has 1 less point than Sarr over those 6 games, and in 1 less game. He's only played 5. Doucouré has 2 goals in the same period and 2 assists to Sarr's 2 goals and 3 assists. In terms of XA, XG, shots on goal, that kind of thing, Sarr obviously outperforms him on all of them, particularly like Sarr has double the shots in the box than Doucouré over the last 6 fixtures. But I like him. I like him in his position, Doucouré. When he was
very good.
When he was that power sort of FPL player, how long is it going to last? A couple of years ago, that was more from a central midfield position. This is him breaking to join in with Deeney. And the amount of times him and particularly Delafeo overdid the counter-attack with the extra pass yesterday, that they could have been doing Bournemouth by a lot more.
Any risk of Doucouré leaving this transfer window? That's the only concern with him potentially.
Can't see it. But I think it's not clear-cut a choice over Sarr, which I thought it would be before I started looking at these numbers. It's really close. And for the 0.6 saving, it might be Doucouré.
Yeah.
It might be. It's going to depend on your circumstance. I also think with Doucouré, there's a more assurance of the place in the team as well. You've got midweek set of fixtures coming up. Does he give Pereira a shot in one of these fixtures? Sarr also didn't look happy when he was brought off yesterday.
It was miserable.
Doucouré, absolutely essential to everything that Watford are doing at the moment. And it's an alternative choice. Just an alternative choice. It's close. I wouldn't put anybody over the other. What I'd recommend, probably do a little comparison of both. I think if you do a comparison of both, you'll probably go for Sarr. But a little bit cheaper, Doucouré is really interesting.
Let's talk about the final game so we can get into a few Twitter questions. You put a tweet out an hour ago, 52 comments as it stands right now on the Twitter questions. So we're going to have a few to get through.
Don't want to do Villa Man City?
No, that's what I'm saying. Let's get that game done so we get into it. Villa People are talking about targeting Villa now, as in captaining the player that's playing against Villa in the next week. A lot of people thinking about coming off Grealish now and just thinking, you know what, Villa are shot. They're in trouble.
I wouldn't be put off Jack Grealish. I'd consider maybe even going back to him if you take me as a Zaha owner. I mean, Grealish has to fall into consideration. The one thing to consider on Villa is, I think it's clear there's going to be movement. We believe Pepe Reina's going there on loan.
Yeah.
Although the people who watch Italian football a lot more than me said that he's been shot for years, Reina. And it might not even be an upgrade on what we saw from Nyland yesterday. Danny Drinkwater in midfield was certainly interesting. I don't really know where Villa are going to go at the moment in terms of... They obviously changed the system to leave out Trezeguet yesterday and just go Grealish and El Ghazi. They just never had an outball. Even when they won the ball, you could see they was under so much pressure, nowhere to go. It was a bad, bad day at the office. The sort of one that will knock any confidence that might have been built up from, say, that Burnley victory and the performance at Leicester in the League Cup. They've got to buy forward. And from that position,
with Wesley out, they've got no choice but to.
And I'm sure they will. Like, I can see if Chelsea get Moussa Dembele from Lyon, I can see like Batshuayi loan. It makes complete sense.
He doesn't want to go there.
Possibly even Giroud.
Yeah,
maybe as an alternative, give them that target.
Yeah.
From that perspective, a little bit more similar, perhaps to Wesley, rather than Batshuayi wants to run in behind. So from that perspective, I'd probably rather stay off Villa because I don't know what's happening next yet. And I think they're one that could be really busy the later we get to the window.
City.
That's in spite of buying more than half a team last year, by the way.
Oh, don't even talk about their 130 million
City,
spend.
There's not too much to say other than rotation kills. We kind of mentioned
set and forget
sort of
with
Mahrez and that at the start. If there's value, the only question you need to think with City now is really right. So who plays against Palace at the weekend? Yeah, and with no midweek fixtures, there's no clue. We assume Sterling comes back in, right?
Well, he better for my Sky football team, but
for who?
Well, Jesus probably
or Aguero.
Jesus, I think.
Or Mahrez. Bernardo Silva didn't play.
Yeah.
So they changed that.
Siri's decided to...
What did you have Siri on for?
I have no idea why it's not. It just is. But you said something that made him think that you said, hey, Siri.
Shut that bitch up.
You probably said, hey, Zeus, and it probably thought you said, hey, Siri. There you go.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
There we go.
You just said it now.
Yeah.
What a state.
Yeah, it is tricky with them, but just kind of set and forget.
We still stay away defensively, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Look at them even at the end of the game yesterday.
Just that stupid leaky goal.
What about when Laporte's back, though?
When Laporte's back, it's different.
6.3, is it? Laporte?
When Laporte's back, it's a very different conversation, and then we all start talking about big at the back again.
They go Laporte and Fernandinho, don't they? Surely.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
I think so. I think Fernandinho. I think he wants to play Fernandinho in that position. Like for so long, he played Mascherano in that position for Barcelona. I think he wants to play Fernandinho there now.
Shall we run down some of these Twitter questions? Because we were recording for a while and we got some ones that we might not have covered when we talked about the games.
Go on, Em.
If there's 55 questions, man, there's got to be some that we've not really covered yet. Let's have a look.
There ain't.
At Axel the Mill, he's an FPL dispatcher. Is it a blanket avoid for Spurs right now? I'm going to leave you to answer that completely. For me, I'm not looking at them.
I've kind of just advised against all. I think Dele Alli. I mean, Dele Alli basically played up front at the weekend. I don't think it's the worst thing if you're still on him to keep him. I certainly wouldn't go and buy him now, by the way. I wouldn't rush him before the Watford one. I think it's like I said, you're trying to target Norwich a little bit. And you're looking at like Son against Norwich, you know what he could be capable of. I think actually at the moment, value-wise, it might be Lucas is the way to look at it. But are we going to buy...
But it's definitely not
Are we going to buy someone at the front?
Yeah,
I can't say it's definitely not nobody. For me, it's nobody.
Yeah. Flapjack at Flapjack FPL, a nice oat snack. Thoughts on the Maddison and Vardy double up? Get my words out there. Do you think it's okay to look at selling one if it enables someone like Danny Ings, spreads the risk a little bit though, even though Maddison and Vardy have been so consistent? I'm on the double up. You're only on Jamie Vardy right now.
Yes, is it okay to look away from it? Yeah, absolutely. They're away to Burnley this week. I certainly wouldn't be looking away from it this week.
Maddison is the one that potentially I could go to if I needed more money to beef up a striker to go to Aubameyang or what have you in the future. I may need to downgrade Jamie Vardy. If you look at our midfields, yours and mine, the difference is we've both got De Bruyne and Sadio Mane. You've got 3 fillers. I've got Maddison still sitting in there, whereas yours are all a little bit cheaper. And so that's where a couple of million might be found with James Maddison, sorry. But I don't know. I think if you move away from them, you do run a risk because they are so consistent. Maddison's goal involvement this season has been fantastic.
One return, James Maddison, in the last 6 game weeks. Admittedly, one of them was a cameo appearance at West Ham United. If you want to go back further, it's 2 goals scored since the 2-0 victory at home to Arsenal in game week 12, and only 2 assists in that time, both in the same fixture away to Aston Villa in game week 16. His goals scored against Watford and at Newcastle. I mean, that sort of stuff doesn't actually appeal, but that said, for the value of 7.7 million, who's to sniff at the fact that he scored 105 FPL points so far this season?
If you've bought him early, like me at 7.1, even better.
Yeah, so I wouldn't sell this week. I wouldn't buy either.
No. FPL Trojan has a very interesting strategy here. Triple Liverpool defence and triple City midfield. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a really interesting take because you could add Gomez at the moment.
Because he's now an option, right? And he's that little bit cheaper.
I wouldn't want to make that Gomez move to after the double, I don't think.
No.
Matip had favouritism for a long time, and I think that's the challenging one.
Then get him in, make him your third defender.
Fit. The numbers when Gomez and Van Dijk played together don't lie. They didn't lie when Liverpool started conceding goals last season as well. We look back and go, right, okay, yeah, Gomez and Van Dijk, it was a lot better. If you go, let's just say you go VVD, Robbo, Trent, then yes, it does absolutely allow Sterling, De Bruyne, Mahrez, for example, or Bernardo or David Silva, whatever your preference is, or one of the front guys instead. Yes, of course it does. And it's not an insane strategy because City ain't conceding goals and Liverpool are obviously so good defensively. Is that 5 or 6 in a row?
6 now.
Do you remember when they didn't kick clean sheets?
Yeah. Still got the same 2 that I had at the start of the season.
Oh, Trent and Robbo never go anywhere for me, mate.
Super glue them into your FPL team. Let's talk a question coming in from Lee Thompson at Swan More Time. He's stuck between, this is a bit of a philosophical question around FPL, which is why I picked it. He's stuck between 250k and 350k with 50 odd points every game week and now nearly 40 points off the top 100k. Is it time to start looking at a few differentials, especially on captaincy? I think not. I think the risk with that is you end up falling back further apart. And when all of your players do perform, you can end up making up that 30 to 40 points. I don't know if I'm wrong,
and this is probably not what people want to hear, but generally speaking, I do make my FPL decisions based on what can get me more points.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a negative in me by not thinking enough about effect. I think sometimes on captaincy I get affected by effective ownership. But then say like this week gone, honestly, I would have gone, if I hadn't gone Vardy, I would have gone Mane before I went. Rashford would have been my 3rd or 4th choice. And De Bruyne as well. And
Rashford on paper, that fixture against Norwich at home screams out, doesn't it?
Of course it does. But then it's the lack of trust in Manchester United in those sort of fixtures, isn't it? But I think Norwich are probably quite a rare case in terms of they played very well when they went to Carrow Road earlier in the season as well and had some joy in that reverse fixture. Captains, yeah, but I mean, what's going to affect your overall rank quite a lot if you're quite templatey is getting that captain right. That's the biggest difference to whether you're seeing green or red arrows. Go with? If I'd gone Rashford rather than Vardy this week, I'm looking at green arrow rather than red. Yeah. But then if it gone the other way and Vardy went mental, I'd be looking at a much bigger red. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I completely understand.
It's down to your choice. It's not rights or wrongs. That's why I think I understand what you're saying about differential. That's why I think a lot of people looking at Son. You think, it's obvious, isn't it? Walk into some better fixtures that include Norwich and Villa over the next 4, and you think, man, it can do damage there. I mean, the Norwich fixture, if Liverpool weren't playing, you go, our son's a captaincy option in that fixture, and what a differential that would be. You're never doing it.
No.
Yeah, he ain't not captaining a Liverpool player.
We have FPL Geek at official FPL Geek asking a question. Bit of a different question. Can you confirm what the speech is at the end of the pod intro music? To me, it sounds like the banter sequel talk show. Let a man know. It says the fantasy football show.
Which is fairly obvious, isn't it?
Now that you know, we actually started the show before we ever even had a brand name
for... The banter sequence. What's it?
The banter sequel talk show.
The banter sequel talk show.
Which is going to be our spin-off podcast that we launch off the back of this when fantasy football's dead, when we're 50 and got nothing else.
We need to get that dubbed though.
Yeah, so I just found some online robotic thing. Because the show originally, if you listen to the first 15, 20 episodes, was the fantasy football show because we didn't have a brand name for it then.
Frank Skinner and David Baddiel called us up and said, you need to change that, lads. So
if only they did. They didn't. But we just were trying to find something better. Now we're PlanetFPL, for now. I don't think we'll ever change now, will we? The world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. I love it when we get Twitter questions that we've already answered in the main podcast. It makes me feel like what we talk about is relevant. Chico Fernandez, who's better, Decore or Sarr, given the price differential? I think Decore definitely there.
No, it's not definite. It's personal preference. Really close.
For me, Decore. But Fantasy Mania at I11No has a question here. Is it time to get rid of Leicester defenders? A lot of people with Suyuncu and Pereira.
Not this week. Again, I'm telling you, we've got Burnley and West Ham in the next 2. No, you're right. Keep, man.
Yeah. A lot of questions coming in around Mahrez now, talking about the fact that he's only 4 points behind Raheem Sterling and paid 600 minutes less. Is he a differential now, or is Pep Roulette too much of a problem? If you're buying him because he's cheap, right? Cheaper than the other City options that are there in De Bruyne and Sterling.
One thing that's interesting
you've got to ride it out then.
With people like Riyad Mahrez. And I think now we're in the second half of the season, it's worth considering this. When you're buying a player now, ask yourself, what price would they be next season?
I do that sometimes, you're right. Like, take Marcus Rashford now. He's going to be more next season, for sure.
And so's Riyad Mahrez. There's value. James Maddison would be another one. I know people are saying, it should come off. You ain't getting James Maddison at 7.7 next season, I tell you. He's going to be higher. He's going to be, certainly in excess of 8 million. 8.5. It could be 8.5. He has a good end of this season. Might be 9 million or so, James Maddison.
Yeah.
So are you nicking something now with all the information to nick advantages? I mean, Danny Ings next year, if he stays fit for the rest of this season, he's going to be 8.5, 9 million next year, the way he's going.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
I don't think he can maintain quite the numbers that he's doing, but he still offers obviously great value in terms of what he's doing at the moment.
We've got one other question that's cropped its head up a number of times. All of the others we kind of covered in the main podcast. And that's about Jamie Vardy. A lot of people are asking, is the Vardy party over?
Why is it over?
Because he hasn't returned for a little while. I mean, I know he hasn't played for a little while.
So Vardy didn't score against Liverpool. He's not alone. He missed the game at West Ham because his wife gave birth. He missed the game at Newcastle.
And had he played against us, he would have scored.
Oh, 100%.
He would have scored.
He certainly would have scored at Newcastle as well.
Yeah.
100%. He missed the Newcastle game with a slight injury. He's come back and he's played Southampton, who are the second most informed side in the league over the last 8-9 game weeks or so. And he got just a lousy assist. I mean,
I don't think the party's over from my point of view. Also, we've got to bear in mind your value, right? You bought him at what price?
I think the party might be over in terms of captaining him.
Yeah.
But I'm going to captain him this Sunday. Spoiler revealed.
9.4 million I bought him for. You bought him even earlier at 9.2 maybe?
9.1.
9.1, and he's now 10 million. It's going to be hard to get rid of him at that price.
I think as it would stand now, in seriousness, I will probably captain Vardy at Burnley on Sunday.
Not a bad shout at all, I think.
And then it is worth saying that because of not just the double game week, but because of the investment that the majority of us will have in one offensive Liverpool player, and the fixtures that Liverpool have in February, that you're not going to be captaining him for quite a while. But Jamie Vardy is not at the value where you feel like that's a necessity.
Yeah, no, he's not your Salah.
I've spoken so much about
Sterling.
When I went to treble Liverpool defensive early in the season, was I didn't see too many weeks when I had a Kane Sterling rotation, which now seems absolutely ridiculous now, that I'd end up captaining a Salah or Mane, and that's why I went down different routes then.
I fancy a bit of wild card. Do you know that?
Yeah, that didn't go so well last time.
No, it didn't. But then I didn't think it did. That I went into a game week that was bad for everyone, regardless of whether we wildcarded or not. James, tell everybody what we've got this week.
I shall. But I do want to do some Liverpool stats just to close out as well.
Do it.
People's poll earlier this morning
has already gone out, so you can listen to that already.
Is game week 24 the best time to use a triple captainship? It was not a Liverpool assessment. I'm about to give you some of that in a second. Tomorrow, Tottenham. We'll talk a little bit about this interesting formation that I believe West Ham played at Sheffield United. What impact there might be for the double game week, if any. What's happening with the goalkeeper situation? Are you buying players? Are Spurs buying players? I believe that Gedson Fernandes is travelling to Tottenham today, having chosen Spurs over West Ham United. Is he good enough? Probably not. Don't lose your knickers.
Keep him.
Or get yourself in a twist about it. But he's got a lot of potential. We'll be talking about Tanganga. The other thing I want to talk about on Tottenham as well is a little bit about what happened with Antonio Rudiger now that case has been closed. I've got some opinions on that. Wednesday, we'll do Sky Fantasy Football. I had a bit of a jump this week. Did you, Serge?
I had a 2,000 jump up to 14,000.
Nice. Thursday's Clash of the Correspondents. Perfect timing because you need more on Liverpool at the moment. FPL Loco Lord and Is My Cat playing our Liverpool and Manchester United correspondents. Really, really looking forward to that one on Thursday. Final plan on Friday.
Yep.
Now, before we finish,
tell me.
I wanted to look at some of the numbers, and there's some really interesting shit in this. And Liverpool's FPL points just in away games. Because it's worth saying that obviously next week, in game week 24, both their fixtures are away. Wolves away and West Ham away.
Yep.
I genuinely think that of all the fixtures Liverpool have left, the fixture at Wolves is the second most difficult that they have left because of the way Wolves play stylistically. The only game I would consider more difficult for Liverpool they have left is Manchester City away in game week 32. I think that speaks for itself. So one of the arguments with the Wolves game is, does that mean, therefore, we should go more defensively or more offensively? And, of course, having covered it this morning, what's the difference between Mane, Salah? Should they be the ones that we triple captain, or is there an alternative? Do you know, Suj, in Liverpool away games this season, which player has scored the most FPL points?
Mo Salah.
No.
Roberto Firmino.
Joint first.
Roberto Firmino's joint first. Okay, Firmino and Virgil van Dijk.
Nope.
I'm going to just guess through their entire team. Mane.
Joint first is Firmino and Trent.
Okay.
They have scored 67 FPL points in away games this season. Robertson has 64. Mane, 58. Van Dijk, 42.
Salah
is 6th, 41.
Does that? But can we read anything into that?
Can we read anything into the fact that Mohamed Salah has scored only one away league goal this season, and that was at Bournemouth?
Has he? What about appearances? Can you factor that in any way?
Yes, of course. So Salah's played 8 games away from home this season, which is Liverpool have played 10 away games in total. Van Dijk, Robertson, Firmino, Alexander-Arnold have played in all 10, although one was a sub-appearance for Alexander-Arnold when he got the 1 point in the same fixture at Bournemouth. Sadio Mane has played 9 of these games, so Mohamed Salah's missed 2. So in one more game, Mane has 17 more points than Salah. Now, don't get me wrong, it only takes one Mohamed Salah hat-trick, and this is completely
flipped the other way,
turned on its head. But interestingly, and it's worth saying, and a few people have picked up on this, Roberto Firmino has not scored at Anfield this season. He has 7 goals away from home and 1 assist. Interestingly, that's only 1 more attacking return than Trent Alexander-Arnold with 2 goals, 5 assists. Obviously, Alexander-Arnold did have the one ridiculous game at Leicester on Boxing Day. Sadio Mane has scored 4 goals and has 3 assists in away games this season. Salah has 4 assists and 1 goal.
What are you trying to get across here?
I'm just giving some information. What people choose to do with that information is entirely up to them.
Because there is no right or wrong here, is there, at all?
I think, and this is just me personally, if I owned Mane and Salah, I would captain Mane in game week 24. And I would captain Salah in game week 25. Mm-hmm. Which is at home to Southampton, by the way.
Yeah.
I think the short term and for next week, if we exclude that most people are not going to go Firmino, and I'll come back onto him, that Mane is the better choice of the two. However, I do also think that over the next 6 or 7 game weeks, that Salah might be the better overall choice. And that's the sort of thing that's also going to make people think, I want to go double attacking. Yeah. Look, whichever one you go for will be wrong. And that's why I've just gone for 1. And I think Mane, in my opinion, has shown greater consistency. It's worth noting on these Firmino numbers, in terms of the amount of attacking contributions he has away from home, it's backed up somewhat by the stats as well. Shots away from home this season, Mane 23, Salah 25, Firmino 31. Shots in the box, Mane and Salah both 10, Firmino 15. Sorry, correction. Mane 19, Salah 20, Firmino 26. That's for shots in the box. And big chances, Mo Salah 5, Mane 8, Firmino 10.
Firmino's really coming out good on some of his stats.
Why is this?
It could be the way teams set up against them or the way they set up against teams.
Yeah, is it that teams don't sit quite as defensive against Liverpool in home games than they do in away games? And perhaps Firmino drops off a little bit more in home games to link and give them a bit more creativity?
Quite possibly.
But then you look at, say, the fixture at Spurs, you look how deep Tottenham were at the weekend, and it's still that bit of magic from Firmino that gets the goal. Statistically, and I'm not saying do this, statistically, the best triple captain for Liverpool next week is Roberto Firmino.
And on that bombshell,
he's in our he's in our differential team.
Let's do it then.
Well, obviously,
yep,
he will blank. I'm telling you, he will blank. I will be using my triple captain next week on Sadio Mane. You?
Yes, I'm not committing to it. If I was using my triple captain next week, it would be Sadio Mane.
There is a case for Trent as well, like strongly. I'm not going to put anybody off. I think just remember with Trent's numbers that Leicester fixture was an incredible
anomaly. But
you say an anomaly, he still did it, right?
Yeah. Some of the passes that he put in at the weekend at your place, you just look at him and think,
it's the ceiling. It's the ceiling of what he could do. I think the games last year, Liverpool won 2-0 at Wolves. It's worth saying that Salah scored both. Salah scored 1 and assisted the other for Van Dijk. And at West Ham, it was a 1-1 draw, wasn't it, on a Monday night? And Milner set up Mane.
And he was offside.
James Milner was offside. It's a little spread for all of them.
Let's get it out.
In terms of fixture, what would I expect next week? Something similar, but the reverse. I do think Wolves might get something off Liverpool. I wouldn't expect them having any problems in beating yourself, but I don't think they'll go mad. No,
we shall see. And there we go. There's your rundown of Game Week 22, a bit of a preview for Game Week 23 as well, and the fixtures and what's coming up this week. Do stay tuned for Tottenham and Sky FF if you are a Sky Fantasy Football player. Clash of the Correspondents is a big one with Gary and Dan, Liverpool and Manchester United. And on Friday, the final plan will be revealing our final transfers if we fixed our goalkeeping situations.
Some information will be handy.
More. So, if anyone wants to let us know if Fabianski or Ramsdale are getting over their injuries, that would be fantastic. Thank you for listening. Ciao for now.
Cue music, man, child.
The Fantasy Football Show.